Hi everyone, this is Holly from the Sweet Simple Things, and I'm going to take you through how I make my whole grain cranberry sourdough. First, take a half cup of dried cranberries and pour warm water over them so they can partially hydrate so that they won't pull too much water out of the bread dough later. Set that aside for about a half hour. Then you can zest oranges. I'm zesting 2 oranges to get as much zest to add to my craisins as possible. Drain your craisins. I didn't show that part, but make sure you drain them and then add that zest to your craisins and stir it together. This will give your craisins a pop of brightness in your bread. Then take those oranges you just zested and juice them. We're going to use 50 grams of the juice in the bread dough. Add 500 grams of your whole wheat flour to a mixing bowl and then put 100 grams of your sourdough starter in with it. I am using discard, but you can use discard or active starter. Just make sure your discard's been fed within a week and been refrigerated. Then add 350 grams of water to the bowl. If you're pouring right over like I am, make sure you go slow so you don't get too much because water adds up fast. 50 grams of the orange juice, and then we're going to do 12 grams of the salt, then grab your spatula or spoon and stir it up. You can also use your hand if you get it a little bit wet. That helps the flour not stick to your fingers. We are going to do 4 total sets of stretches and folds. This is my second one. I forgot to get the first one on camera, but you can go ahead and see how I'm doing it here. So this is the second one and the last one I'm going to do before adding the inclusions. The dough is pretty stiff. Cover and let rest for 30 minutes in between each set of stretch and folds. Okay, so this is my third set, and this is where I'm going to add my cranberries and orange zest. So what you're going to do is just pull up on the dough a little and probably put in a quarter or so of the craisins. Then you're going to do another fold and then bring the dough right over it so it's kind of getting it all folded into it. Now this is a stiffer dough, so you will have to probably use your hands to help you do this. I kept it stiff so that it would keep its structure with the whole grain flour and the weight of the inclusions. Just do your best to get them folded in. You'll have a chance during the fourth set of stretches and folds to get them even more evenly distributed. After you're done, you'll cover the bowl, let it rest 30 minutes before doing that final set. Now for my fourth set, I am just trying to really distribute these cranberries as evenly as I can, and the dough is pretty stiff. I end up actually having to just pick the dough up out of the bowl and just do this while holding it. But I'm just folding it all into itself, being careful not to tear the dough. As much as I can. The gluten is well developed, so I don't need to worry about getting too many folds in. And then I put it in a clear-sided container so I can watch the rise. I like to get my hand wet and then push down on the top of the dough to flatten it so that I can get a very clear starting mark. After getting it as flat as I can, The way I do this is I grab a little expo marker and I just make a line on the front of the container. And then I am the nerd who likes to measure my dough and really try to get as precise as I can with my bulk ferment. So my dough is 73 degrees. I'm going to go for about a 50 to 60% rise for my bulk ferment. So I do a little measuring, add that 50 to 60% on, and make a mark. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I like to be in the ballpark as much as I can. So you can see there about how much I'm going to let it rise before shaping. And that's it. Now is the time when you let your dough rest and do its thing. All right, the bulk ferment is over. It has risen all the way. I'm going to pour my dough out of the container onto my counter for the pre-shape. Now for pre-shape, I just kind of do some stretches and folds again just to get it into a ball. Tuck any loose ones in if you can. And then I use my bench scraper to help me flip it. A couple tucks and rolls just to get it round and ready to go. And then I'm going to leave that sit for 20 minutes. Now I'm going to do my final shaping. I flip it back over smooth side down and I'm pressing it out into a square. This is a great time as any craisins fall out to just press them back in at random. So make a square with your hands, use your bench scraper to kind of help pick up the edges. I like to fold it over 2/3 of the way and then stick the seam down, pull the other side back over that side, stick down the seam, and then I roll it into itself. Pinch the ends. Then using my bench scraper to help me, I get this picked up and I'm putting upside down in the banneton. Then I'd just like to do some pinches to secure the seam the best that I can. And that is it. This is going to get covered and go in the fridge overnight to do a cold proof. In the morning, I take my baker out, put it in the oven to heat it up to 450 degrees. Once the oven is heated, I take the dough out of the fridge. I love this dough sling. I use it to help me flip the loaf out of the banneton, and then it's easier to transfer into a hot baking vessel. And then I'm going to score mine just right down the middle. My lame is not very sharp and the dough is pretty thick, so I'm kind of going slow. Normally you want to pull pretty quickly on these. And I'm going to open the oven to pull out the hot baker. And we're going to put the dough right into the hot baker. And then I'm going to use that spray bottle you see in the corner there. I'm going to spray the top of the loaf about 10 times, get the lid on it, and then stick it in the oven. Spraying the top of the loaf creates steam, which helps keep the crust from going hard too quick in the oven so we can get a good oven rise. Okay, it went in for 30 minutes at 450. Now we're pulling off the lid, checking out the rise. It looks great. We're going to pull the lid off, but leave it in there. Lower the heat to 425 and do another 13 minutes. When it's done, pull it out, and here it is. It's a beautiful golden brown. It smells lovely. You can smell just the hint of orange in this bread, and I just can't wait to dig into it. Check out the link in this description if you want to see the recipe written down. I hope you found this helpful.